Dwight wasn't even made. He doesn't even have a date on him.
He doesn't even exist.
The funny thing is that Jesus actually has a copyright in 2002.
Who owns the copyright to Jesus?
I don't know, but I'd like to meet that man. I'm sure he's pretty rich.
Pretty epic.
I don't think we paid him royalties yet. Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and I come to you every week helping you guys use media of any sort, whether it be motion graphics or audio or web design or whatever it may be, to help increase God's kingdom, to share the story of Christ. And we want to do this using whatever's around us because that's a really, really important message, the most important message of them all to share. And we want to do this as cheap and as free as possible, and so I try to help you guys do this on a budget because that's where I'm at and that's where a lot of you guys are at. Even when you do have a budget, you still want to save the money. Every week helping me, though, in a very interesting way, is the three wise men and Jesus. We have Colonel Sanders, Little Whitey, Dwight Schrute, and of course, Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. Well, in this week's edition, we're going to wrap up our series on looping backgrounds, and we're going to show you a final way to do some looping that kind of will broaden your horizon as far as what you can do with loops. It's a pretty interesting and pretty cool thing, and I'm really excited about it, and it's a really cool effect that you can use. And also, we're going to be covering a whole bunch of other stuff, as well as showing you a creative way to see the world via some motion graphics inspiration. So if the three wise men and Jesus are ready, let's get into it. Well, I'm going to grab you guys some resources from my stockpile, and this week there are a whole bunch of great free stuff. And the first one is a great new website with free photography tutorials, and this is photo.tootsplus.com or tutsplus.com, however you want to say it. And this comes from the Toots Network, and they got tons of different sites. Actually, let's pull this drop down here and see. We got PSD, Net, Vector, Audio, AE, Flash, CG, and now Photos, as well as a bunch of marketplaces and blogs and a whole bunch of stuff. But this is a great site that teaches you some great basics to photography, as well as photography manipulation inside Photoshop and similar editing software. So check that out. The next one is a new site that got recommended to me. It's called MediaMilitia.com, and they just put out a smoke pack. It's 75 free smoky images. These are all pretty high res. They got a bunch of downloads here that you can see. Really cool stuff. So if you're doing some sort of mysterious series or something like that, you could use these smoky images. Next, we have 5 high-res stock picture frames. So these are just some great photo frames that you can use that are already cut out, and you can get them from a couple different places, and that's from Design Shared. And then last is from AE Tuts, going back to the Tuts Network for 44 killer free texture sites. And this is for doing textures inside After Effects or doing textures on your CG stuff or in Photoshop. We all love a good texture to add some realism to our digital work, and so this is a huge list. I'm just gonna quickly go through all 44 of them. There you go, you saw them all. But you can go to the website and get the link to that. So check out AE Tuts' 44 great texture sites. We got Design Shared's 5 stock photo frames, Media Militia's 75 free smoky images, and of course phototoots.com. Well, this week we're going to be finishing up our 4-part series on looping backgrounds. I'm going to give you one more technique you can use, and it uses expressions. And I'll give you that warning just in case you guys hate expressions, but you should learn to love them by now. I'm trying to help you see the power of them, and again this week I think you will. So we're going to jump into After Effects, but before we do, we're going to head over to motionscript.com, which is Dan Ebert's resource for AE, expressions and scripting. And we're going to go down to the Expression Designer's Guide, I think. And there is a wiggle, looping wiggle. And this is a pretty cool thing here, and I'll show you how this works. Basically, you can see here you have a red and a blue path, and this is what a normal wiggle would do. And the white path here is actually what it does, how it loops it together. So it's taking this blue path and taking this red path and looping it together. So this is totally random. Same up here, all of these stars are just randomly looping via the wiggle function. The wiggle function just kind of randomly moves stuff, but there's no way to loop it without this expression. So you can copy this expression. I use Evernote, and I just have a little expressions area here, and you can see I have looping wiggle, and it's all saved right here. So we can just copy this guy. We're going to go into After Effects, and we're going to do a new comp. We'll call this Master because this is going to be our main comp. We'll work out of, we're doing a 640 by 360 widescreen at 30 frames per second. Again, always do loops at 30 frames per second. They work a lot better that way. Next, we're going to just create a little circle here. I'll hold Shift to constrain proportions, and maybe we'll get rid of that stroke. Just delete that off there. And sure, good enough. And now we're going to pull up our position property, and I'm going to alt-click on the position, and I'm going to paste in this looping function. So what you can see here, what this function is doing, it's saying the frequency of 1 time per second at an amplitude of 110. So 1 time per second, we're going to go 110 pixels, and we want it to loop every 3 seconds. And then down here, this is what's actually doing the loop. You never really need to change anything down here unless you would want to change this linear to a ease in or an ease out. It's just a math function, so linear works, you don't need to worry about it. What we're going to do is, to get a little bit more life out of it, we're going to just set this to 10 seconds for now. And if we watch and go over to 10 seconds in our timeline, we'll page down or page up and set our work area bar. So now we can do home and end, and you can see our loop is perfect. But in between, I'll just RAM preview this for us. You'll see that our circle is just kind of floating around randomly, but it's a perfect loop. Now you might say, hey Brad, cool, you got a little red ball moving around the screen randomly. That doesn't help me out at all. Well, I'm going to show you how it could help you out. And we're going to do this real quickly using a couple different things. So first thing we're going to do is do a new solid, and we're going to make this a black solid, make it the comp size, hit OK. And we're going to do some fractal noise and noise and grain, fractal noise. And we'll just kind of mess around with the brightness. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this, just enough to prove my point. And then let's do some transformation. Let's undo uniform scale. Maybe scale this together a little bit. Kind of gonna redo what we did the other day and make our lines here. So we got our little line deal going on. Now we're gonna do a generate, and we're gonna do a warp, distort warp. And we'll just kind of curve this guy out, maybe take our vertical distortion and bring that down, so we kind of got this pinwheel effect going on. It's not amazing. We can make our fractal noise loop if we want to, like we did before. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'm just going to focus on the coloring of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate a 4-color gradient, which I use all the time. We're going to set this to multiply, and so we got our colors showing up here. And what we're going to do, let's just make these a little more pronounced colors. Okay, so we can see those a little bit. Now let's say our fractal noise, I'll just, if our fractal noise was moving, you would say, okay, it's kind of plain. But what we can actually do is go set this loop function to some of our source points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this color to maybe like this brighter blue here. Let's take this green, maybe make this some sort of tealy green, blue. Let's maybe make this purple, a little bit more purpley red. And finally, let's make this blue a little more orange-ish. Okay, so we got some cool stuff going on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start out by moving this green spot and this blue spot. Actually, let's keep the green and the blue, and let's do this with the purple and the yellow. So what we're going to do is just take these two guys. I'm going to find a point in which I want them to start from, which is those two spots. Then I'm going to take, so this is point 3. I'm going to alt-click on point 3. I'm going to paste in my looping wiggle function that I had from earlier. I'm going to set this to 10, and then I'm going to set my frequency to, let's maybe say 5, and my amplitude to 200. And now, if we RAM preview this real fast, you can kind of see what's happening already is our colors are now moving around the screen, and so we kind of have a more unique look. Let's quickly go loop that fractal noise so that we can see what that would look like. I'm just going to keyframe this loop for now. Evolution options, cycle evolution. We'll do let's do 2 evolutions, 2, and then we'll go here and set this to 0. And so now we should see some movement going on. We might need to do this at half quality. Do every other frame so we can get this to render a little bit quicker for us. But what you'll see is that our evolution will start. Oh, it's not going to do anything because I didn't set keyframes. Evolution keyframe and 2 here. And now, there we go. So now we're starting to see some movement from the fractal noise, but we're also getting movement from our colors. So what this allows us to do is to create a little bit more dynamic and more interesting looking piece. So you can see we got movement going on here, but we also have some movement going on from these colors. Now it's a little bit crazy, but it looks a lot better than if the colors were just sitting because you get some more movement. So this looping wiggle can be used for a lot of different things and not just that. Now, what I'll show you next is something Trent Armstrong from Igniter Media, a friend of mine, got inspired by this guy, and I was already inspired by this guy, and he went over to James White, signalnoise.com. This is his Flickr page, and here's some crazy, cool, cosmic retro stuff that he made with these crazy circles, and he was like, I could picture that in motion. And so he made this background. I saw it 2 years ago at Echo, and I was like, I love that, so cool, my favorite background they've ever made. And I've been trying to figure out how to make it for a long time, and I kind of looked on his Vimeo page. He had some pointers about how to do it. And so what it basically entails is you combine a couple different things here. We're actually going to use this looping wiggle, but we're also going to make it so it wiggles in only one dimension. So we're going to take the value of the wiggle and of the spot. So let's quickly show you how to do this. This is pretty painless. I'll just make a new comp. We'll do wiggle 1 only. And we'll just make a little bar here. And I hate the stroke, so I'm going to delete the stroke. Okay. And then we'll just take our position keyframe. We're going to alt-click on it to make a deal, make an expression, and now we're going to jump in here. So again, I'm not a pro at this, and so I'm going to go look and see. If we watch right now, you can see how it's just kind of lunging about at will. But what we can see here, we need to take it and set it to have a value of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to just copy this one line here, and we're going to go back into After Effects, and we can see that our final is this linear line here. And so I'm just going to set this to be W equals, and put a semicolon down, and then I'm going to just paste that in. And so now it's going to use my value of wherever I have it, so I can move this about the screen and it will stay fine. Then it's just going to kind of loop it back and forth. So it's a pretty cool effect. Now what we could do is, instead of doing this to the position, we're going to delete this. I'm going to cut this out of here, and that's fine. I don't care. And what we're going to do is just kind of put this in the middle of the screen, and we're going to go in and we're going to do a generate, and we're going to do a offset. I think is in generate. Maybe it's in distort. Distort, offset. It's one of the two places always. And we're going to shift the center point. So I'm going to alt-click this, paste in my deal here, and now you can see that once it goes over, it automatically flips around. So now I'm just going to duplicate this a couple times, and you'll kind of get the gist of what we're creating here. I'll just resize some of these. And you'll get to see kind of what's going on here. And what we're going to get is we're going to take our one dimension wiggle only. I'm actually going to go back to my master comp, pull this in, and then I'm going to do a distort, and I'm going to do a polar coordinates. And we're going to do polar to rectangular, or rectangular to polar, my bad. And now you can see we have our lines, and they're kind of looping around, and that's kind of the start of that look. And then you can go in and take that looping wiggle function and maybe change the color values of it and get a pretty interesting loop. So there's just kind of some tips on how you can use that looping wiggle. There's a lot of different things you can apply it to. Those are just a few different ways you can do it. So make sure to check out Signal Noise for some great inspiration on your artwork. This is an extra inspiration moment because James does great work, and you can get some great inspiration from that. As well as check out Trent's website, which is aetutorials.net, and you can find out more about looping from him, and he's got some other great tutorials, so make sure to check that out, as well as ignitermedia.com. Stay tuned next week. We're actually going to be not doing any more looping stuff, but we got some great stuff coming ahead that I'll give you guys some more tips about in a little bit. So let's head on. Well, this week's motion graphics inspiration comes to you from Saab, and they ask you to change your perspective, and this is a pretty cool piece. And I like showing these ones just for not really to say, hey, you guys should try make something like this, but more of, hey, you should try think outside the box like this, because I like how they are thinking differently in the way that they're doing stuff, and it's like, well, how could you uniquely do something that you're creating that's pretty simple and plain? So check out this Saab change perspective video.
Oh, there's a whisper in the wind. Something's going on among the leaves. I can't put my finger on it, but it's calling out my name. There's no mistaking what this day has to say. It whispers in my ear and says, why don't you come out? I'm waiting on you, waiting on you.
When you have a different perspective on things, you don't end up with just another car. You end up with a Saab.
Well, this week's freebie is a James White inspired background. We didn't really make it during our tutorial section, but it's something similar using a lot of the effects that we've talked about. So I'm really excited about this one. I like it a lot. So make sure you guys go over to the website, download it today, and add it to your arsenal. It's in widescreen and in full screen, WMV as well as MPEG-4. So check it out and put it into good use. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. Next week, we're going to be talking about Gmail. Gmail. I recently made the switch over to Gmail and got rid of Outlook. So I'm going to talk about how you can use Google Apps for your church and how you can integrate that. And we'll talk through all the steps that go into that, as well as how to sync up all your accounts. And it's a good old time. So hopefully it'll make you a little bit more productive, because it's made me a little bit more productive, and it saves you a lot of time, and you can access your email everywhere. So it's going to be a great episode. If you have any questions about any of the looping stuff that we've done over the past 4 weeks, make sure to email me, as well as make sure to tell others about the show that are around you. If you have other people who are making backgrounds or making loops, make sure to let them know about it, because I really want to help spread the word to everyone who could use this resource. We don't want to hold it into our own. The reason I'm doing this is because I knew I couldn't keep all this stuff to myself. I needed to share it with everybody else. So if you have any other questions, you can hit me up on Twitter for my morning motion graphics, as well as a lot of other stuff. Twitter.com/CMDTV. You can hit up Adam CMDTV. You can give me an email, or you can subscribe to our newsletter and find out some behind the scenes stuff. And that's at ChurchMediaDesign.tv/subscribe. Become our fan on Facebook, Facebook.com/CMDTV, and buy a t-shirt. That's our last and final thing. Buy a t-shirt. They're inexpensive and they help us out a lot, so make sure to head over to the website. There are limited quantities, so after this one's sold out, it's never going to be made again. We're going to make a new shirt for the next time around, so get your shirt while you can. So as for me and the three wise men and Jesus, we're saying, see you next week. Did you know that Jesus was made in 2002, Adam?
No.
No, yeah. Well, he is. It's kind of interesting.
It's weird. I was a freshman in high school.
You were a freshman in high school when Jesus was made in 2002?
But I think I was already a Christian, so that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, I don't know how that would make sense. I don't know how people are going to hear you when you make those comments either.
Ah!